In February, we were supposed to go up to Forest Home for winter camp, and the whole week I was stressing out because we didn't have way to get up there. We didn't have like enough students for our contract, and I was a stress case. And I looked at the weather report on a Wednesday, and it said serious rain. And I called the camp, and they said, "No, we're gonna have camp still." And so I get everything ready. We pick up these two 15-passenger vans. We get the tire chains, and it's 3:20, and we're getting ready to load up the vans for winter camp. And I get a call from the camp that says, "We're not going up there. They've closed the camp and that we can't make it up there." And I had to tell all of my students who were pulling up to just go home and that we weren't going to have camp. And it was really sad and really upsetting. And no amount of ice cream took care of the pain or cupcakes. It was just really hard. And so in June, when I decided to sign the contract for summer camp, I was really reluctant because I said, what if we don't make it up there? What if kids aren't going to want to come because they're afraid or whatever? And so, but I signed the contract anyway, and we had enough kids, and we started to make our way up the mountain for camp. And we get everything ready and packed, loaded in the buses, and we're literally a mile away from camp, and the rain just starts pouring down. And it's pouring and pouring, and I'm looking outside, and I'm looking out the sunroof, and it's just not happening. And I look at Maddie, and I go, what are we going to do? And
our next step was to test your waterproof
yeah.
iPhone base.
Yeah, and it worked. We were able to do that. So Maddie sticks my phone out of the window, and we're both sitting there freaking out, joking with Tyler that we should have brought a boat to come up the river. And
should have just paddled our way up.
We're trying to make it up there, and I'm looking at Maddie like, we have to get to camp. This can't not happen.
We have to get to camp.
Yeah, second time in 6 months. And so I asked Maddie what she thinks we should do, and in the meantime, the camp is telling us you have to turn back around, go back down the mountain. And so we take the kids down the mountain, and
it stops raining.
It stops raining, of course, as we get down the mountain. We get into Redlands, and we're at this park, and I start calling all of my friends, like, what should I do? How am I going to get up there? And we have this whole plan planned out about if we can't get it up to camp, what's going to happen.
What we're going to do.
Yeah.
What we're going to do every single day.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I was really excited. And we get up there, and I'm like, well, we're hungry. Let's go get some pizza. And we go in to get pizza, and it starts pouring rain.
It's awful.
Again in Redlands. It's pouring rain, and I'm trying to get a hold of the camp, and at one point we're standing by the bathrooms, and Maddie's talking to my friend on the phone while I'm talking to the camp, and then we switch.
And on the phone with the hotel.
And it was
like
just
canceling reservations, then remaking them, and it was a mess.
And we get the phone call from the camp that says, okay, you can come back up the mountain now. So we load the kids back in the cars, we drive up the mountain. We're literally like at the exact same spot where we stopped. And they're like, yeah, they're not letting anybody back up. You have to go.
Just buses.
Yeah, just buses.
Which made no sense.
Yeah. They're like, well, you can park your car down at the bottom of the mountain. And I'm like, well, neither of these are my car. So I don't know what we're going to do. And we drive back down the mountain into Palm Desert for the night. And
stayed at a pretty cool hotel.
Stayed at a really nice hotel. It was just really crazy. And but I heard it was worse up at the camp.
Yeah, I was actually working at the camp at the time, and Rachel kept calling me, and she actually called me when it started to rain, and she was kind of just like, I'm freaking out, last time we were supposed to go up to camp, it got canceled, and I remember just like looking out of the window of my cabin out in the parking lot, and it had been pouring down rain for a good 2 hours, and I'm like, no, it's fine, it's like, it's not gonna get canceled, and within 3 minutes of hanging up the phone from her, I start hearing the sirens with the flash flood warning.
Oh my god.
And they're telling us to evacuate and that it's mandatory, so we put on shower caps and trash bags over us because that's what's necessary when it's raining. And we go out of our cabin, we go to cross the street that they were trying to drive up, and it was literally a river. There was water maybe up to our shins deep. And the underpass that goes under the main road had actually flooded, so we couldn't go through that. So we had to cross the main highway, which had rocks and water, and so we got drenched just from our knees down. And then from there, they had us checking cars to make sure no one was trapped because there were cars being flooded up to the tops of the windows and the roofs. And so I was sick. I had like 101 fever, but there was no time for me to like tell someone that I was sick.
Oh my god.
It shouldn't be out there. So I was just checking cars for like people, and then I just remember like seeing there was this one hill at camp that comes down from where the younger kids camp, and there were just like full suitcases and mattresses just floating down the mountain. And at that point, like finally once I got settled inside and stuff, I like texted Rachel and I was like, oh, I think they're gonna try and open camp up tomorrow.
Awesome.
But luckily where they were going wasn't affected by the flood.
Like, at all.
And
Maybe
it's
it was
crazy.
a little wet. That was it.
Yeah.
Grass was a little wet.
It's so crazy how like one side of the street literally just there was nothing left. It was just like mud just pouring into the buildings. The first building we got evacuated into, mud was just like pouring in, and then just right across the highway there's like a beach and nothing.
We get up, so we go to Palm Desert for the night, and you look at the 2 hotel rooms we had, and it was just like kids scattered everywhere, all over the floor. I send leaders out to go buy like cereal. I'm like, what in the world are we gonna do? And I'm calling like anybody I know who can like pray for me. And we finally fell asleep at like 3 a.m. after watching like I don't even know how many episodes of Sweet Life on Deck. And we fall asleep at 3. I start getting phone calls at 6:30 in the morning from these parents like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, the camp says they're gonna let us back up there, so I pack us all back up in the cars again. We're driving up to camp, and they stop us again, like as we're supposed to get up there.
Same exact spot.
And I lean out the window and I'm screaming like, Tyler, tell them we're going to Lakeview. They're gonna let us in. We're going to Lakeview. We're like screaming, and like all the girls in my car are like, what in the world? And but we get up there and we get into our cabins, and we go to that first night of chapel, and it was just like the coolest experience ever.
Made it all worth it.
Yeah, you know, and to be up there and to see the staff just like really come alongside us, and driving into camp, it was just like walls of mud on either side of the highway. But then we get into our side and everything's perfect. It's gorgeous. And by the end of the week, to see like everybody at that camp raising their arms, worshiping and having so much fun, like it made all the craziness worth it. I think for me at least.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the part that when I realized that it was all worth it was just seeing how everybody like pitched in together to clean up the mud, and seeing, even though a lot of the camp centers that I worked at over on the side that got flooded didn't get to reopen after the flood, I got to work over like where the high schoolers were, and just seeing like those kids and how they were completely unaffected through it, and they were still able to they actually, one of the cool things that they told us after the week that camp left was that week more kids had accepted Christ for the first time in high school than any other week that entire summer. So I think that's like the part when I realized that it was definitely worth it, and like all that shoveling mud and everything wasn't so bad after all.
Oh goodness.
I think too, like being up there and realizing that like ministry or like anything that I do like can't be about what I want, because probably what I wanted at the time on Sunday evening is I'm soaking wet and kids have lost their cell phones and I didn't get to eat the pizza they ordered and all this stuff. Was like, I just want to go home. I just want to be in my bed. Call my mom and like tell her I love her, like all this stuff. And I realized that like it couldn't be about me. And as frustrated as I was like getting up there, by Friday night being able to like, or Thursday night I guess, being able to like worship with the kids and to see them do that, and it just totally made it all worth it. And it made me like really realize like, hey, Rachel, life's not about you ever. And that's okay. It's really cool.
That's why I've heard like they say when you make plans, God laughs.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's like, ha! Then you think it's gonna go that way.
Yeah,
But he always has
that's awesome.
I think it worked out best in the end. And it makes a good story.
it.
Yeah.
It brought us all closer together.
Yeah, I mean,
Closer to God.
these students are like, the students that came to camp were all like super close. We have all these inside jokes now, and it's super fun to see that like dynamic of all of us. You know?
Like, hey, remember that one time we like almost didn't get to camp?
Remember
Oh
when
wait,
we
that
went
was
to camp?
twice. That
It's okay, because
Oh,
anyway, we're
yeah.
gonna get up there.
we did. We're gonna go. Oh gosh.
Oh man. Well, anyway, I'm Rachel.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Ashley.
That's somebody